Hang on. Yes, recording. So I hand over to you, Jocelyn.
Great. So I'm so excited to be with you, Anaiya. And what sparked this is that actually I run a lot of women's educational programs, and one of my clients was asking about menopause. And the thing about that is that I don't have the actual body wisdom, the actual experience of going through menopause and such a just multi-dimensional crucible, I would imagine. And so anyone who is, in my audience, this is Anaiya Sophia, and she is just incredible. I met her when we were in or when I was in the south of France, and she opened up her beautiful Airbnb in her home, and she has this way of connecting women to their womb and their wisdom in their sacred body. She has these workshops that are called Sacred Body Awakening. And I really believe it's the living Christ Sophia wisdom. It's the breath of the Magdalene and the Christ energy that has come together to reignite our hearts. And Anaiya has this flame, this lantern that she has, I feel, discovered somewhere, throughout the different nooks and crannies and in these ancient writings and in her own sacred heart. And so I'm just so grateful to know you and to be able to have you as this bodily holder of wisdom to weave this into creation. So today we'll be talking about the mysteries of menopause. And for me, I think the main thing that I want to explore with you, Anaiya, is some of the taboos that we have around it. The fact that all of our society is based on preserving youthfulness instead of actually this great initiation that we get to go into as women. I believe when I learned, I went to this healer in New Zealand, and this was the first time I ever had a paradigm shift around menopause. But she said, that women have 4 seasons in every month, and that when you go through menopause, the reason why it's so tumultuous is because it's like the alchemist crucible. It's like you put all 4 of those elements together, and you're like fusing them in fire and heat and all of that. So I want to get into women who may be in menopause, women who are approaching menopause, and for the young women the message is to dispel some of this kind of, I think a lot of women fear menopause. They kind of ignore it. They shut the door. It's like in the skeleton's closet, not to look at until it, knocks on the door kind of thing. So I just want to ask you a few questions as we go along, and have a conversation about this.
Totally.
Yeah. So first of all, I just wanted to ask you, I saw a video of yours on your Facebook page just recently with Pete, and you said that it was 7, you feel it's coming to an end, and it's been 7 years. And so I just kind of wanted to open up the floor to, how has it been for you? I mean, that seems like a sacred number in itself, 7 years and a long journey. So
gosh, so long, Jocelyn. To me, menopause has been so real. Because I didn't do motherhood. So the last time my hormones were this outrageous, I was 14 years old, my first moon cycle. So I've had this lovely plain sailing until about 42, 43 years old was when I first noticed it happening. And now I can look back, because I really do think I'm drawing to a close now. All the big phenomena has been and gone, the hot flashes, the night sweats, the emotional roller coaster. This is like a thing of the past now. But I can sense that 50 is going to be a new phase of life. But to me, menopause is meeting the Black Madonna. It's meeting the Dark Mother every day, every day. And it's so lovely to be the other side of that meeting. As I said, 7 years, and that is roughly how long it takes, 7 to 8 years.
Yeah.
This phenomena, this internal, a heated alchemy. And for me, the hardest part was the appearance. That's me just being really honest. The change of appearance and the moving from summer to autumn. And by golly, that was a rough ride. I didn't realize, because, you know, I'm a pleasing looking being, but I'm not a great beauty. I knew I wasn't a great beauty. So I thought it'd be kind of easy to just like let go of that. Oh, Jocelyn, it was so hard. That was the worst bit. The worst bit was the appearance of wrinkles, the putting on of extra weight, and just watching my own self change from, you know, a joyful, sassy being into a more mature, softer, rounder being, and wanting and needing to do that naturally.
Yeah.
No artificial help, no nothingness, just yoga, just nutrition, that's it. Dare I allow it all to just change? And I met Pete at that start of the process. So obviously I was wanting to appeal to him, you know, like, hey, check me out. Aren't I sassy? Aren't I edgy? Aren't I creative? And it's all just sliding through my fingers like grains of sand. And to stay true, stay natural. Don't reach for Botox. Don't reach for HRT. Just go for it. You know this is the Black Madonna. You know this is a mystical experience. Can you be naked before her and him, the new partner? And it was a yes every step of the way, but it was hard.
Thank you. When you talk about the Black Madonna, there's going to be some women that don't know who she is and what she means for a woman and why it's important to know who she is. Can you explain a little bit of that?
Yeah. Well, you could also say, you know, the whole world is in a state of meeting the Black Madonna right now. So the Black Madonna is kind of like the destroyer. She is a truth-telling, way-showing, authentic, time is ticking and I am here, feminine presence. She's the dark mother. She's the, you could say, the hidden aspect of Mary Magdalene. She's the mystical transformational process. So she's not really a woman. She's not really a being. She's a process. She's an alchemical change. She brings upon, an alchemical change. And she's feminine in nature because she's unpredictable. She's fierce. She won't go until it's over. And because she's part of the cycle of life, I guess that's why she gets the she label. It's a feminine cycle of life.
Yeah, I love that.
And she'll eventually have her entire way, which means I won't be here anymore in the body. I would have moved from autumn to winter to the great unnameable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is such a huge mystery. And from this, you wrote your book, I'm assuming. The Fierce Feminine was the voice of the dark she, the Black Madonna.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This menopausal process definitely gave me my voice.
Yeah.
My voice, I am not trying to appease or please anybody anymore. The veils are down, the stage is set. An authentic being is taking those steps upon that stage. But to actually get there, you gotta let go of the summer, the beautiful golden radiant summer, dancing around in a little dress. Now it's time for something else.
Yeah. But the way I sense it, which could be, this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you live, is that for other people to hear, is that, well, and we talked about that. There was this choice to have this private conversation or to make it public. And so, but I thought, and this is great that we're doing this, but I wanted to ask you that the way I see it is like, women that are in this process. Like, for example, I would say I'm in my 30s. I'm in my summer. I'm just approaching my summer,
Yes.
So, and at the same time, as I'm going into this fruit, I see it as, because I'm in that breath of the hormones always changing and moving, and I always sense as passing through the gateway of menopause, maybe not in the menopause itself,
Yes.
but I have this kind of ideation, I don't know if it's real or not, but of it being an initiation. Because for men, in the ancient rites, I feel like they had to be like, they would go after what Shakti, what our hormones actually initiate women into naturally. It's like we were just thrown into the fire through menstruation, through menopause, through these bodily awakenings. And men, they have to like seek it out by going, the Native Americans, they would go and they would sit and meditate, no food, no water, and just have the whole village praying for them.
Yes.
I would imagine that once you get past the gateway, there's this, it's not arriving, because in life you never really arrive, but it's like this new power. It's like this new sense of self. That's more of what it is. Not power in the distorted sense where you're using it over others, but in like a center of orbit. Like you're like, oh, wait, this is what it was all pointing to. I imagine that when I intuit that, I mean, obviously you have to go through the transformative process of like turning to goo through the menopausal gateways, but is that your experience? Or
Definitely.
Yeah,
there is a new power, but you have to let go of the old. The old power. My old power was my appearance, was my flirtation, was my Shakti, was my playful naughtiness. I had to let go. I do have a little bit left, but I had to get rid of the majority of it when I was using it seriously. When I would use it to really try and sort of ensnare or attract or entice someone, that power was fading. And I had to let go of it before the new power could arise. And that new power is a natural authenticity. I look out upon the world, but I know that the majority of me now is on the inside. So I look out and go, wow, that looks like fun. But I really can't be bothered anymore. But I so enjoy watching everybody get involved with the outer games, the outer play, which is essential, which is glorious. But I'm really getting that sense of one foot is in one world, one foot is in the other. And that is amazing to see all of this new stuff start to appear on the horizon. And also, there's like really lovely sweetness appearing and softness. Mortality is really apparent. Death and, this maturation process is really apparent. And there's a grief there, a beautiful grief, not a sad sort of self-entitled, oh, I'm losing things. The grief of letting something go, and the gratitude of having tasted it in the first place. And also this strange gratitude of maturing.
Mm.
You know, in the same way, you know, we're in the autumn now and we're seeing all the beautiful bright emerald trees turn to russet.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can really feel that process in the tree. And then eventually it'll become brown. And then eventually totally dry. And then it will absolutely waft in front of me before my feet. You know, this final offering of itself. And that's what I'm starting to like tap into every day. And it's so, oh, that level of gratitude is really quite, it's grace, actually.
Mm. It's so amazing because when you were talking about this, I just get the picture of these yogis and how they go to the mountain and they give up all their possessions and they sit and they meditate and they do this to give up everything, all the appearances in the world. But isn't it amazing that the feminine body does that? Like through your story, what I'm hearing is that this journey, it does that. Spirit, soul,
Yes.
that sentient intelligence automatically takes us to that path of letting us know who we really are.
Yeah.
You know, that infinite breath.
Absolutely. There's also this worldwide phenomena that when a woman is in menopause, she gets really close to the natural world. So even if you had an absolute love affair with the natural world in your 20s and 30s, which I had, it takes on a whole different level in your 40s, 50s. There is this deep, deep union, this kind of beloved, you know, that the natural world becomes your family, your extended family. So I can totally see why it is that it's the more mature woman who really goes out on a limb with the protesting towards the natural world. And of course,
Well,
you know, the other little paradox, we got Greta. But woman does have a very deep relating with the natural world.
yeah. Yeah. I overheard some men talking about how women, you know, they shouldn't be in power because of their hormones. And I thought to myself, actually, a woman in her 50s, she'd be through menopause, so that doesn't apply. You know, she's
Yeah,
actually even more sturdy and awake and connected, just like you're talking about. And she's
yeah,
ready because she's been through all of these amazing challenges internally, I
yeah.
think.
And with
Oh,
our
that's so
ancestors,
beautiful.
most of our ancestors, they would have got to their 50s. And, you know, I speak to my mum about this, and there's a sense of, you know, there's tiredness in the body. Life is coming to a sense of completeness. It's time to not work so hard. It's time to rest, you know, and rekindle. But my generation, and most definitely yours, we're going to go into our 50s. And because of the good lifestyle, the healthy, yogi, nutritional lifestyle, we are far from winding down. And this I am going to find very interesting. So,
Uh,
what are those ladies going to be up to?
yeah.
They've got their health, they've got their vibrancy, they've got their consciousness.
Yes.
They've healed the majority of what's in their body. The menopause has done their authenticity thing on them. Now, this is going to get interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, the other thing that I wanted to ask you, because the main conversation that sparked this, I was having it with a woman, and she was saying she just, when she went through menopause, she just lost her libido, you know,
Oh, yes.
completely.
Yeah.
That spark of fire was gone, and that flirtiness, like you're talking about, that vivaciousness that naturally used to exude from her. And she has the passion. She lives a very healthy lifestyle. So it's the same thing. She has a passion for life.
Yes.
But the sexual spark is gone. And she was saying how she doesn't quite know how to, because the men don't lose it.
No. No. And this is exactly what I've been through too.
Yeah. So I
It's
want to
like
know
my
that.
joie de vie. This is what I find fascinating, because I've still got my joyfulness, I've still
Yeah.
got my creativity, spontaneity, and playfulness. But the sexuality piece has totally done a disappearing act.
Yeah.
And yet, all of those words I just described are part of the second chakra. This is womb energy.
Yes.
So you would have thought that should the sexuality drop down, then also there's passion, spontaneity, playfulness, and joy. Because it's technically, yogically, all one and the same energy.
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened. And it also sounds like the woman you're speaking about, that didn't happen. It's just the sexuality. I have no interest in it. I have no desire. How strange is that? And of course, this was another huge piece, how to be with that, how to communicate that. And all of the fears I had of sharing that with Pete. This is not good news.
Yeah.
You know, we have a new and fresh relationship. And now suddenly this woman has no desire.
Yeah.
That has been hard. I'm told by my mother, who also went through this, that the sexual desire returns, but it's different. And if anything, it's even more expressive and delicious and deeply felt, but it's different. Mine hasn't yet resurfaced. I get little glimpses every now and again. I'm basically patiently and faithfully waiting for its return. And I was quite certain that I'm not going to, you know, the old saying, lay down and think of England. That's not fair. That's not fair to me. That's not fair to Pete. That's not fair to us.
Yes.
That's the old way.
Yeah.
There are other things you can do with your beloved. I'm waiting for that real, true desire to return.
Yeah.
And by golly, we've had some very scary conversations around that one.
I'm sure, because
Yeah.
the majority of most relationships, obviously, are based on sexual union. And then what happens
Absolutely.
when that portion goes away is that it relies mainly on the emotional and on the friendship, the kinship, the other
And
forms.
intimacy. And that's what I mean. You have to learn new ways.
Yeah.
So intimacy becomes important. You know, the sacred body, that became important.
Yeah.
Holding one another, energy, communication. So you find other ways of, you know, having intercourse.
Yes.
Basically,
Yeah.
the physical part just seems so terribly uninteresting. I never thought I would say that. And, you know, if you was to say to me, if you were to remain now exactly as you are, how do you feel about that? Absolutely fine. So there's this sense I'm not missing anything.
Yeah.
How bizarre.
So interesting. Do you and Pete do any practices, tantric practices, like plugging in and breathing, or is it more just that you're reverent to what is needed in each moment? You're not really.
Yes, it's more that. It's it's more that where the deepest level of sharing is in the realm of prayer.
Yeah.
Prayer and praise and gratitude, we spend a lot of time outside walking in nature. That is definitely where Pete and I really go to the next level of intimacy, of beingness. We tried to sit down and do the tantric practices, but to be honest, it felt so artificial.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you're giving a band-aid to something that requires much, much more. And breathing together and eye gazing and all of that business, it didn't lead to anything. It's
Yeah.
like we had to go into this process with no answers,
Uh-huh.
with just a little handrail. And this is something Pete often says: the woman doesn't go through menopause, the couple goes through menopause, because the new level of being is so strong in the woman that she starts sort of vibing that new frequency out.
Yeah.
And you can't really compete or challenge with that because it's so strong. It's like, this is how it is. And so, you know, the rest of the
It
family
almost
have to sort
reminds
of go on the journey too.
Yeah. It almost reminds me of pregnancy, you know,
Yeah.
like the hormones come in and they're just like, this is what's happening.
Yes. Yes.
I know you said you didn't go through that specifically, but that's what it reminds me of. Is that the couple, if obviously the couple is connected, the couple is pregnant, you know,
Yes. Yes.
because he's going to have to move with her movements.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And truthful beingness, stripping down to the bare essential being, really is the process of menopause.
Yeah.
You know, the masks, the faces, the glamour, the chasing, the doing, all of that gets seen. All our coping strategies, mechanisms for staying on top, all of that gets seen.
Yes.
And not only is it seen, it's seen and taken away.
So what were some of the starting conversations that you had? Because I know for some women, they get in, if you don't have a conscious communication already, meaning the majority of people are going to be, women are going to go into this initiation and it's going to be their secret almost. For most couples, I think most couples are not open like you and Pete, and talking about this and connecting and being brave and courageous and facing the shadows that show up when the dark mother comes
Yes.
for a visit, you know, and
Yes.
stays for a long time. So what what's some advice that you would give to some of these women who want to start that conversation and don't know actually how to meet their own needs
Yeah.
and make it okay, actually even just reach out to their beloved
Yeah.
to let them know, you know?
Well, I noticed back in those early days, you know, you're saying, you know, Pete and I, we have a lovely open communicative relationship, but even me and my girlfriends, it wasn't easy. I was the first one openly declaring, I am in menopause, you know, and the majority of my friends from England were not having that conversation amongst their friends. And so the first thing that happened with me, like, you know, parading this around, I am in my menopause, was this joyful relief that finally the conversation could be had. And everybody was so up for it and ready. They were almost spilling out of themselves. You know, they'd been in it 2 or 3 years. They knew they were in the perimenopausal phase. No one is mentioning it.
Wow.
And so the conversations just took fire. It became alive and brought so much relief. So that is definitely, you know, if you have friends in their mid to late 40s, open up the conversation.
Yeah.
You're going to probably find they're in it too. Get some fabulous books. I can't remember the title, but maybe I can go and look in my diary, in my library, and put it in the tagline. There's some amazing books out there that really help you through it, and helps you understand what this is about. Because energetically, if I was a mother, what I'm saying energetically to the family is, beloved family, I adore you. You are the most important people to me in the entire world. However, I got to go on a journey. You're going to be in my hearts constantly, and I will be back in about 7 years. That is what you're energetically saying to the family. So when I read that, that brought tremendous relief, because that was how I was feeling. I wanted to go off on a vision quest. I wanted a little burrow in the forest somewhere and just not be expected to come out and pretend everything's okay and just get on with stuff in the world.
Wow.
And so what you can do,
menopause. It sounds like menstruation almost, but extreme.
yes,
Like you're always in that psychic,
totally
sensitive place.
And this author said, make your bedroom a womb. And bring all your fabrics and oils and books and everything that you need to feel cozy. And every night you get into bed, you are returning to her cauldron. So there's this like ancient feminine who's stirring you, and you can just fall into her arms every night and just say, beloved one, continue on. You have my blessing. You have my permission.
Wow.
Because this strong mystical element is with you constantly.
And what I feel we do as women, it kind of makes me emotional actually as I'm talking to you, is we hide this away.
Yes.
We're ashamed of it, like you talked about. We see hot flashes as just, I remember my grandmother, just wiping the sweat off of her brow. Kind of just, and then just hiding the handkerchief to the side as she's sipping a cup of tea. Just, you know what I mean? Just
totally.
I just love that. I mean, full body chills when you're talking about stirring it and just being open and starting the conversation and having the conversation with your beloved Pete. And this is where, as someone that has seen the narrative, as it's been going on this merry-go-round again and again of silencing what it is to be a woman and what we actually need. It is so refreshing to hear another woman just say, you tell your family, bye.
That's right. That's right.
And you just allow this energy to penetrate you fully. And you just authentically show up in that.
Absolutely. I remember I had a hot flush in the post office queue, and this lady's chatting to me, and we're really, having a great conversation about, some caves that she's found or something, and I can feel it coming because it starts in your belly. And what it is, it's an upward wall of blood. All of your valves open at the same time in your arteries. And so you just get this upsurge of hot blood everywhere. It goes from your feet to your face. So I can feel the valves are starting to open. And I know I've got a few seconds now before I turn bright red and start sweating. And this woman, she's in the middle of her conversation. So it's come, whoa. And I just had to put my hand up and I go, I'm technically having a hot flush right now. So just carry on. I'm here, I'm listening, but don't panic at how red and sweaty I've become. And she laughed and she laughed and she laughed. She must have been in her 60s.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is the way to go. We can't hide this.
Mm.
And we shouldn't hide this. And we hide it because there's this stigma that when you're in your menopause, you're of no use. You can't make babies anymore. You're infertile. You're not creative. You're on your way to the grave. And that's why we're afraid of talking openly about it.
Yeah. And I really feel like this is a part of the programming, you know, whatever you
Yes.
want to call it. You can call this a conspiracy theory or whatever. But in my opinion, the world is a lot easier to control if the women in power are not rising, are
Yes.
not upholding that power that they're being initiated into.
Yeah.
If the women that have passed through the gates of menopause stay silent, the tyrants of this world have free reign. So
Yeah.
I just really feel like if we can get the women talking like you did,
Yeah.
just more and more, and also young women, so like women my age and even younger,
Yes.
knowing and anticipating, because there's this whole agenda, you know, like with I've noticed it, I'm beginning more and more now to try to let go of my appearance being an asset, even
Wow.
now,
Yeah.
because I see it as a way that the media manipulates us to
Mm.
place so much emphasis on that that's our only trump card. So then when we
Mm.
actually get this other form of power where we can be in a circle with men and be just as powerful and not swayed, and we're not getting knocked out by our hormonal patterning, we're just
Yeah.
strong and actually connected to that earth pulse.
Yeah.
You know, this is what I feel like we need, and the young women need to know that this time, although it's intense,
Mm.
what I can hear, it's something to look forward to. You may get
Yes.
wrinkles, but what you're getting is
Oh,
a
yes.
power that you've never had before,
Yeah.
because you don't need, from what I'm hearing, it
Yeah.
sounds like you don't need anybody else. You don't need their sexual attraction. You don't
No.
need someone else telling you who you should be.
Yeah.
No.
When I was younger, there was a dread of entering menopause because of this sexual libido thing. But
Yeah.
the thing is, when you're in it, you don't even notice. So you're not suffering.
Yeah.
So I want to put that out to the younger women. Don't be afraid of losing the sexual desire because you don't even notice it's gone.
Yeah.
And there was one more thing. Yeah, it's like I adore the natural world so much. Who's to say us humans don't have to go through that same process? You know, it's apple season here. Quite a lot of them have fallen. You know, why would we remain bright green and red juicy apples? Why would we not fall to the floor and start to become rotten and brown and rot down? So yeah, I haven't quite really formulated my understanding of this, but there is great medicine in that, and such a relief. Oh my God, Jocelyn, there's such a relief to know that you're part of the cycle of life, that your body is just like an apple, just like a leaf, just like a seed, a flower. And the appreciation, so much appreciation for having your springtime and your summertime. And that appreciation, you know, this is a radiance that's coming from the heart. And it's like being in a state of prayer. You're
Mm.
so grateful for having lived.
I think that's so beautiful. Thank you. And I think that this is, I've been watching, this is a completely different, but I've been watching this kind of cult classic remake, which is called The Dark Crystal. Have you heard of it?
Ooh, yes, I have.
Okay. And in that, they tell a really beautiful story, which is what you're talking about, I think. And there's these two races in it, and they're the Gelfling and the the skeksis, and the skeksis are these like reptilian bird-like things, and then the gelfling are these mammals, and they're connected to this thing called Thra, like Earth, the Earth pulse almost. Mm. And the skeksis are from a different planet, and the skeksis' main mission is to live forever. Mm. And so they have to parasitically drain life from the other living things in order to stay alive. But then there are these elders that are highlighted in the Gelfling and the mystical kind of clans that you see that tell this story that if you stay connected to Thra or Earth, that there's this different form of life that is non-parasitic, that you don't have to extract it unnaturally. And I think that that's what's so beautiful about your example, Anaiya. That's why I wanted to have this conversation for other people to hear, because we're not hearing that story about how aging can be beautiful,
Yes. Yeah.
And we take our older relatives, and they're just away. I have a son with Down syndrome. He's just away. Like we're starting to have them out in the community as seen. Same thing with, I think this movement needs to happen with the elderly people. We need our elders. We need people who have been initiated through life experience that the younger ones haven't. Yeah. And I think with my generation, with the millennials, we think we have it all figured out. And it's because there are the older ones that haven't gone on this deep journey of connection that you have, Anaiya. Mm-hmm. And that's why I came to you, is because there is a narrative to be heard. Mm-hmm. There is something that has been living through you. Like when you talk about this deep connection with Earth, of course I'm connected to Earth. But when I hear you talk about it because of, I don't know, call it empathy or whatever you want to call it, I get this glimpse of mysticism. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting emotional again, but that makes me excited about aging. And that is such a beautiful relief. I think for so many of us, because there's this constant push in society to be beautiful, to be powerful, to have your next book published, to whatever it is, this long line of achievements that you have to stay on top of. And what I hear from you is like, when it starts to crumble, it's okay. That this part of life brings this kind of brilliance of the need for that restoration, the need for that that process of just dissolving. And feeling deeply and not knowing and falling apart. And that's okay too. And it's so refreshing. It's the antithesis of what I think our society is constantly pushing. And it is our medicine right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's the most honest quest I've ever been on.
I bet.
Yeah. There was another, I was really struggling about a year ago. And beautiful Cara Gillingham, who you know, she saw me really, really struggling with the hot sweats and the night sweats, and she suggested I get a copy of The Medical Medium, who basically said, if you drink celery juice every morning for 8 days before anything, all of your menopausal symptoms will diminish. And I thought, well, 8 days, by golly, I can do 8 days. And so I did, and so they did.
Really?
So that is another radical thing that needs to be known. A pint of celery juice first thing in the morning, it does something to the stomach. Again, I better not quote anything, but we can put the link in The Medical Medium. It just sets everything in place, and whilst the hormones are like fluctuating in the background of your being, the majority of you is in a really good space, and everything just sort of fades into the background. It's much more manageable.
Okay. So
And
maybe
I
the
feel
natural
that's,
process is a bit gentler, but then,
yes,
but it's like maybe like I'm guessing like processed sugars and
yeah.
like all this stuff that
Oh,
we have in our diet that
yeah,
probably add fire to the
yeah.
flame.
I've always been a
Cool.
very enthusiastic eater. I've got a big appetite. And that is something that I had to sort of wean down because the body doesn't need so much food. You don't need that amount anymore. Um, Coffee is meant to go, but it hasn't. All the white sugars and breads, that's got to go. All those carbs, that's got to go. You will just pile on the weight.
Yeah.
You are like a weight magnet right now. And so what I did is I halved all my portions. So I'm still eating, and enjoying my food, but it's much, much less in volume. And I'm, keeping the weight off by walking, long walks across the Pyrenees. If I didn't do that, I would be rapidly turning into a little round person,
Mm.
even more round than I already am. But
I just,
again, everything's manageable, but you will have to sort of show up and reorganize your list of priorities. If you want to maintain a slimmer figure and a flexible figure and a figure that can endure and, keep up with stamina, when you were younger, you could have got away with it. Now you really have to put that as number one or number two priority.
yeah.
And it's so true. If you don't, what's the word? If you don't use it, you'll lose it. And
Yeah.
that is true.
In Rudolf Steiner's work, he talks about, the Saturn return, the 7-year cycles.
Yeah.
And in that, he talks about how his theory is that the soul goes through like reality, physical reality kind of gets less and less forgiving as you get
Yes.
older, because it's like that's it. He says, and I've used this word a lot, so for the people who are listening, sorry for lack of a better word, but initiation
Mm.
into we have to become more and more responsible as you get.
Yeah.
That's like the idea that I'm getting from you. It's like, well, your soul just needs more and more, like you, the more aware that you become, the
Yeah.
more responsibility that the universe knows that it can kind of plop in your lap. And on top of that, you probably
Yeah.
need more, I would assume, as we go along in order to continue to evolve these
Yes.
catalytic changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You definitely become more light, breath, subtlety. You don't really need the rooty sacral things anymore. The stuff that was anchoring you to the earth starts to lift off. So and that's what I mean by you've got this sense of mortality. You're
Mm,
starting to get lighter. Hmm.
yeah. And yet
Yeah.
still the earthy part is being acknowledged because you have
Yeah.
to be there for the body to
Yeah.
maintain its health. So it's that weaving together.
Yes.
Very beautiful. And I
But
think that so many people probably have the health issues, like you said, because that new level of responsibility comes in, and
mm,
maybe we haven't been working on those things already,
mm,
and then they, you just get worse. So
yes.
these type of things for some people when they're listening are going to be amazing, because they're going to have you the listener gets to have this opportunity
Yeah.
of changing the narrative, possibly to make it a bit more
Mm.
uh,
I often think of the last days, the dying and death process. And I'm starting to get into a sense of ecstatic death because I'm thinking there is nothing, my final gift to this world is for my body to rot down and seep into the land. So all the paths that Pete and I are walking now, these old Cathar pathways, I'm hoping that one day my body, my bodily materials will be part of that same earth and mud and rock. And that's another thing, you know, death would have been, oh, I don't want to talk about that. I definitely don't want to talk about that.
Yes.
But now I'm like, oh, I so want to talk about that. I want to talk about rotting down and giving my flesh to the forest. I mean, maybe it will take on a whole different vibration. You know, should I have a health crisis and, you know, death become a real reality? At the moment, it's all very poetic and romantic, but at least I'm not afraid. At least it's not a forbidden conversation. It's very open, it's very available.
Do you think that facing menopause has helped you with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because, you know, when the first hot flush appears, you're like, what the bloody hell is going on? This is powerful bodily sensation. You know, I thought I was having some sort of, well, I just thought something was very, very wrong. And then I realized, oh, I know what that was.
Wow.
Yeah. You just get a taste of the sheer, like, nuclear power that's in your body. And how when we're in homeostasis, you know, everything's very mellow, and then a slight little change of the hormones and bam, other realities appear.
For the ones who are watching that have had a bit of spiritual experience, what is it similar to Kundalini?
Yes.
Energy?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. Because when you said it comes from your feet and then it flushes up, I was thinking, oh,
yeah.
I could get a waft of that flavor, you know, but.
And in this book I was reading, which again, I'll give you the details, the authoress says to ride the waves of the heat. And she said, you know, even put in your wish list, put in what you're working on, name what you want to let go of. And that's what I was doing. The fire would come, and I'm like, I want to release my clinging on to youth. You just burned that one up for me, Mama. Then it becomes fun. It becomes a game. Rather than, you know, trying to suppress it and pretend it's not happening and, you know, as you say, dabbing the sweat with a hanky and just like discreetly hiding the hanky, yes. you just chuck in the fire all the falsity you need to burn. And you ride it. You enjoy the sensations. Don't be afraid. Yeah. It only lasts a few seconds. It's fabulous.
Where's Pete in this picture? Like when you're going through that.
He's smiling. He's often beside me driving and smiling, and because I've just announced, you know, one's coming, and he's like, what are you gonna name this time? And I do silly things like, I say, hold my hand, can you feel it? Or put your hand on my belly, put your hand on my chest. And yeah, you know, he's like, oh my God. And I'm like, you should see what it's like on the inside. Wow. You know, you're feeling this. I'm in this. He's like, I can't believe how hot you get. So it's feelable. You can feel it in the person. Wow. This sudden amplification of heat and then immediate back down to natural normalness. Wow. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Anaiya,
yeah, he has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Keeping the conversation open, not putting any pressure on me to be anything other than what's happening. Yeah. He's been a very patient, loving, and mature being.
the reason why I came to you is because this archetype of this woman that I'm talking about with menopause, it's not just one. There's like so many that have
Yeah.
come to me and asked this question in different ways, you know. And I just, in all of the readings that I have, which I really lean towards the wisdom of the Celtic and Druid people,
Mm.
and in that lineage of walking, like, you don't talk about something unless you've lived it. So then I knew that before answering in a very clever way of all the things that I had read from someone else, I just needed to come to someone who knew.
Mm.
But my closest advice was, uh, for one of these beautiful, vulnerable women, was to just see, because what she had said was menopause had come and gone, not so long, like probably a year. She thought it had ended, and the spark still wasn't there, but she had gone through the menopausal transformation, and through that they hadn't, you know, her and her partner hadn't,
Yes.
you know, she just kind of let the fire die and
Yeah.
took what she needed. But it had been a long time since they had had a conversation. So my advice to her was just, well, why don't you just go out for brunch or something, or even make brunch if that
Yes.
feels too vulnerable in a public place, and just say, how are you doing in that
Yes.
department,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
Do you think that that's a good way
Absolutely. The
to
other
go
thing
about?
would be to, to self motivate, self rekindle her Shakti.
Yeah.
How would she do that? People like me and you, we'd go out to nature. We'd take our little iPod with us. We'd
Yeah.
we'd play some tribal music. We'd dance for the trees.
Yeah.
So she could look at rekindling quietly, in the secret womb space, her Shakti. How can she get herself sort of going again? Is it
Yeah.
going to be breath? Is it going to be dance? Is it going to be X-rated poetry? So she will have to sort of, trigger it off.
Got it.
And then the next big vulnerable step, to present this new self to the partner, because it's
Mm,
going to be different to how she was.
yes.
How is she going to stay this authentic with her partner?
And I think that's the key probably for most postmenopausal women or menopausal women, is that your
Mm,
relationship to sexuality, who you knew yourself to be in that sexual state, is going to completely change.
yeah.
So it's about creating that new connection with the new woman.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
My
Yes.
advice to her was also to get a yoni stone, a yoni egg,
Yes.
and
Yes.
put it
Yes.
inside, and clench and feel and breathe
Yeah.
and writhe and
That's it.
and
Yeah.
get, like, it, you know, not only check in with her guy and say, hey, you know, how have you been? It's been a
Yes.
while. But
Hello.
also,
Anyone down
like,
there?
yeah, exactly. How's it going? Everything all right? You know, and just start to create those connections. So I'm glad that, you know, I'm having this conversation, because
Yeah.
those are the kind of things I feel. But I didn't know if this was kind of too magical or mystical. Like, when you pass through the hormones actually going away, can you get to that point of that new connection at points? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
creating this new relationship.
Yes. Any creative process is going to help women come complete full circle and find this new self that has been born.
Yeah.
You see, the program is, okay, ladies, wither and die, you're done, your childbearing years are done.
Yeah.
But woman will have to, represent herself and say, I don't think so. I've just gone through a huge metamorphosis and I need to find my new self. And this
Yeah.
could involve journaling, writing, painting, sculpture. It's going to come out through the body. The women won't be able to think of their new selves. They're going to have to use their hands and their body to become their new self. So
Yes.
who is this new woman? Who is she? What are her new values? What are her new secret passions? Because they are there. The program is to say they're not there. They are there. They might be really obscure. Like, I like nothing more than to drink a mug of Horlicks. That's Ovaltine. Before bed, whilst watching Ricky Gervais on YouTube. I don't know. Because the thing is, it's going to be out of the box.
Yeah.
The other great gift of menopause. There's no rules anymore. You are out of the box. No one can put their finger on you. No one can define you.
Yeah.
You are free. Free to be.
Mm.
Now, what does that mean? How does that being make love? How does that being dress? Where does that being shop? What does she do in her spare time? What does she do with her inner time?
Yes. Thank you. It's just all of this. I'm just drinking it in, and I know that this is going to help so many other women too.
Oh, wonderful.
Everything that you do, Anaiya, you know.
And Jocelyn, I want to thank you for being interested, and not only for being interested, for asking the questions and giving us this time. You know, to me, you are spring going into summer.
Yeah.
And here you are with your life force and your time, paying attention and recognizing this part that's so far away still. What a beautiful gift. You honor us by giving us this moment to have this conversation. Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
Thank you. It's always been so interesting. I think that we as women need to gather again, you know. And my mom was such a huge initiator for me when I went through puberty. I had the blessing of having an older woman say, there's going to be some weird things happening. And it's not always going to be comfortable, but you're going to become a woman. And I know that my mom went into menopause quite young, by the way, because the women in my family, we start ovulating later. And so there tends to be this scientific thing where, so she started going into menopause around 46, 47, like 45 even, perimenopause started kicking in. So for me, it's kind of like when I was a child, I was already anticipating. And I think that women my age need to do this. It's kind of like how most of humanity doesn't look at death until it's done.
Totally.
You know, and so this is a natural part of life. And so having these conversations, women, you know, if you're watching this, share this information with your friends. Doesn't matter what age. You know, because it gives us this open forum at some point, by the grace of God, you know, we will have these experiences, and it's so important to start to explore them and dip into that realm. So I just love that you're open to have the conversations, Anaiya, and I respect your work so much. And, you know, what I heard in the story when you were talking about the apple rotting, when I see your work and what you've created, I'm like getting emotional again, but is just that when the apple falls and the flesh rots, you know, what is amazing is that there's a seed. And for people like you that have come into this life and are awake and are facing the narrative and are listening. And so I'm not trying to make Anaiya special in this by saying this. I'm talking to the people listening to this too. You Anaiya have a seed. And with the life that you've lived with this awareness, that seed is going to go into the collective, and
Mm.
a new tree, a new wisdom is
Mm.
going to come from all the information that you have gathered within your life. I'm
Mm.
not saying that you're going anywhere anytime soon, but when that comes way down the
Yeah.
track,
Yeah.
that because you've been aware, because you've been awake, I know that is the promise. That seed of wisdom that you've planted in your being lives on.
Yeah.
And I honor that. I honor that in you so much. And I'm thankful for your example. And thank you for your time today.
Mm.
And just, I'm sure there's going to be so many that lap this up,
Oh.
you know?
Yeah. Oh,
um,
bless you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you. Mm.
Okay. I will. Shall I end this meeting?
Yeah, that it feels complete. It feels good.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
See you.